Get ready for your daily dose of marketing strategies and tactics from entrepreneurs with the guile and experience to help you find success in any marketing capacity. You're listening to Marketing School with your instructors, Neil Patel and Eric Su.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Marketing School. Today we're going to talk about how you can record and promote podcasts. Neil, why don't you kick things off?
Sure. So we'll start with recording. Now, Eric and I have had a lot of issues recording. So much so that he's bought me a mic. I bought a really good mic. He's bought me a travel mic. And we record multiple times. So we use multiple softwares. And the reason being is, out of all the episodes we recorded, there's probably 10 to 12 episodes that we recorded that didn't actually get recorded, in which we click the record button, we say the whole episode, and nothing happens. We're done, and we're just oh, amazing episode. And then we click to save, and something happens or crashes, and we're like, this sucks. There's no episode, and we have to redo it. And that's happened a lot. Eric, do you want to break down the software we use to record? I know QuickTime has been the most stable out of all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to touch upon what Neil said, the issues, when it comes to missing 10 episodes at 10 minutes each, that's 100, right? But then if you add up both Neil and myself, our time, it's 200 minutes. And, basically that's a lot of money wasted, a lot of time wasted. And, I just become really sad afterwards. I'm sure Neil's also sad too. And it's just really demoralizing. It just doesn't make you want to do anymore, because sometimes we'll get off on a really good one and it's just there it goes. But anyway, I digress. What we use right now, I've been using the same software right now. Neil and I are talking through Skype at the moment. Ecamm call recorder has been fairly solid. The only reason I've screwed up on that one a couple times is because typically on calls, they will automatically discard calls that are less than 10 minutes. And in some cases, we've gone less than 10 minutes. So you want to make sure that you have the right settings. That's ECAMM recorder. So that one's solid. And then QuickTime, like Neil mentioned, is also very good as well. I originally was, when we were recording at Neil's place, we were trying to use ScreenFlow, but it crashed on us twice and we lost all our work there. So those are the tools that you want to be using. So I'm also staring at this mic right now. So the mic that I'm using to record is a Blue Yeti. And then Neil has a black Blue Yeti. And then we also got him a ATR 2100. That's an Audio Techna, I believe. We'll drop this in the show notes. The other one I have right here that is for iPhone. This is kind of our backup that I brought in when Neil and I were recording a couple weeks ago. There's this iPhone mic. I think if you just go to Amazon and you type in iPhone microphone, you should be able to find something. And Neil, why don't you jump into how to promote it? I'm going to go look for this model so I can give it to people.
Sure. And one quick thing, when we're talking about a backup mic, we will have Eric so if we're together, we just have one mic plugged into the computer, but we'll also plug in that little mic into the iPhone and record as a backup. And on the computer, we're using two software. So any one of the ones that Eric mentioned plus QuickTime. So in that way, there's backups. So on the computer, there's not only two softwares that are recording us talking, there's also the iPhone and the mic that's also picking us up talking. So in essence, we're creating 3 files for every single recording. Because for us, when a podcast doesn't go through, it's really demoralizing, and neither of us want to record more during that day, especially when that happens 2-3 times in a row. As for promoting, there's a few things we do. The biggest bang for the buck has been email blasts. So I have an email list that's really big. Eric has one. And every Sunday, I miss a few Sundays because I'm traveling, but every Sunday I try to do an email blast about the podcast, and that gets a consistent stream of views for the whole week. And that's been our biggest uptick, right? And when we do that, I think we're on pace for around 150,000 listens for the month. The stats on a lot of these podcast listening services, I think we use Libsyn to track. I believe it is. It's
correct.
Check right now. Is it Libsyn, Eric?
Yep, Libsyn. And we're on track for 207.
But the issue with it is it's really inaccurate. Someone can listen for 1 second and it counts it as a listen. And we all know that's not true. So the real number is a lot lower. But email still gives us the biggest bang for the buck when it comes to popularity. The other thing that we do is submit to Product Hunt, which Eric does every single day.
Yep, and to touch on the product hunt thing, it's actually really important when you're submitting out there that you're getting other people to help upvote as well. Whether it's your team and, whether it's people that, let's say we mentioned specific tools on the episode, we're going to try to get them on as well. And if you look at Product Hunt, you can see that our podcasts consistently get a lot of upvotes. And in some cases, our podcasts are getting, over 100 upvotes, which is a lot for a podcast because typically on Product Hunt, as of this recording, as of September 2016, the top podcast will usually average 30 or 40 upvotes, but when we're putting our stuff up there, it's 60, 70, sometimes 100 upvotes, and the audience is really enjoying it. So Product Hunt is a great one. I guess I can, let me talk about the mic really quick before we jump into more promotion. The iPhone mic that I have, that actually sounds really good when we're in person. It's called, so it's Shure, it's S as in sugar, H-U-R-E, the MV88. So it's M as in money, V as in Victor, 88, MV88 iOS digital stereo condenser microphone, and it has a little lightning port on it. But anyway, I can layer on an additional point of promotion. I think one thing, Neil, that I just actually added last week to my list was using a RSS to email digest that comes out every single week that has a digest of all of our podcast episodes for the week. That way it's more automated, and that way we don't have to keep writing manual messages each week. Now, the trade-off here is that if you're writing a manual message, you're going to get higher click-through, you're going to get more traffic. But then sometimes, like Neil's traveling right now, he's not going to be able to hit it all the time. So that's something you might want to try out.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind too is when you're creating a podcast and you're trying to promote it, we don't do this, but it works for other people. The best strategy is to interview other people who are already popular. Because what you can end up doing is, once you release the podcast, you ask them to share it on their social profiles. If they have an email list, you ask them to do an email blast. If they have a blog, you can ask them to blog about it. They won't do everything, but they'll do some, and that's good enough. And if you just use that one simple strategy of just continually asking people who are really popular to be on your podcast, interviewing them, and then asking them to promote it once the episode's live, it's a great way to get consistent new viewers and traffic. Plus, let's say a year goes by, you can then email them again and be like, hey, John, I just want to let you know that your podcast has hit like 100,000 listens, whatever the number is. Don't make it up, but just go over what the real number is. And then we'd be like, it's doing extremely well. It'd be really amazing if you can do another push for it. Feel free to share it on your social networks. People love it. I just want to get you the most press as possible. And when you do something as simple as that, that person will continually promote your podcast and bring you new listeners. And that's really important because if that person's popular, every year they're going to generate new followers that they didn't have the first time when they promoted your podcast.
Funny enough that you say that. There is a podcast out there called The Art of Charm, and I happened to randomly run into the co-founder of that podcast, and they get, we're talking millions of listens a month. And he said, he gave the same exact tip. He said, if you're starting out, you should be interviewing people because then you can kind of siphon off their audience. But at the same time, he did exactly what you said. Basically, he would reach out to these people a couple months later and say, hey, your podcast is really killing it right now. Here's the link again. Here's the tweetable. So you basically write out the tweet for them, whatever social shares, and push it out there. So that does, in fact, work. I'll say, you probably don't want to forget about the table stakes stuff, too, such as pushing to your Facebook pages. Neil has a pretty big following on Facebook. And then there's also Twitter as well. So, when we use Libsyn, the benefit to that is that we can auto-publish to a few different mediums. That includes SoundCloud, that includes Twitter as well. We can publish to our Facebook pages too. So you can hit all of these at once, and that way it just, the more you can automate here, the better. And it's helpful for us because we have a decent sized following. I would say also, if you can use a tool like Edgar will kind of set your social media posts on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and then just have them, kind of post evergreen, because the content that we're producing right now more or less is evergreen. So we want to continue to have it show up in our streams. Neil, anything else from your side?
That's mainly it. I can't really think of other strategies. Like, people do a lot of small stuff, like they keep retweeting out the same episode over and over again, and you can do those tactics or continue to share them on your social web. And, all those things help, but they don't have as big of an impact as interviewing people or doing email blasts. And I know that sounds simple, and I'm not giving you guys a ton of marketing tips, and Eric isn't. That's also a good thing too, because you know where to focus your time and energy.
Yeah, and you don't want to look at your download numbers all the time. It's like, look at how many followers he has on Instagram or whatever it is exactly. That's not what it's all about. It's about how much value you're actually providing. What I really get a kick out of, and what Neil gets a kick out of, is, looking at the reviews people are writing on iTunes or Twitter, or, even when I'm seeing people in person. Like this morning, I just went to my friend's office and a couple people walked up and said, hey, we really like what you're doing on marketing school. I was just telling Neil the other day, I was at some event and some other people were talking about, the podcast. So as long as you're providing value, people are, you can see that there's social validation out there. You're seeing there's engagement out there. You're doing the right thing because nobody's complaining about it and you're actually helping people. So that's what you're ultimately looking for, right?
Exactly.
So that's it for this episode of Marketing School. We'll see you in tomorrow's.
This session of Marketing School has come to a close. Be sure to subscribe for more daily marketing strategies and tactics to help you find the success you've always dreamed of. And don't forget to rate and review so we can continue to bring you the best daily content possible. We'll see you in class tomorrow, right here on Marketing School.